Welcome back to the Sports News. Right now I'm joined by Gary Skiles and Joseph Stupar of Madison LaFollette Wrestling. Gentlemen, thanks for joining us here today.
Thanks for having us.
Joey, want to start with you. Just been wrestling a couple of years, you told me, and you had a really successful season last year. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, I had 28 wins. I won the Big 8 conference and I was a sectional qualifier.
Fantastic. That's a good year for 3 years in. Good job. Now, Gary, we were talking a little bit before on kind of the history of wrestling in Madison. Can you share with us, a bit of that knowledge that you've acquired, maybe the past on what's gone on with wrestling in the area?
Right. Well, now I haven't been in Madison with wrestling quite as long as I maybe look and so forth. I've been at Madison LaFollette High School since 1990. But Madison wrestling has kind of struggled over that time period, but we're in kind of a nice upsurge and there's a lot of good competition. We're getting some more youth wrestling and kids coming up with getting more involved out of the season and doing better in our conference, more participation in the state tournament and so forth. So I'm feeling good about Madison wrestling right now.
And you mentioned that with some of the youth programs and things like that. Is that maybe one of the key contributors to the resurgence of wrestling in the area?
Oh, I think it's huge, and it's still developmental at this point, but we're doing some nice things. We've got some wrestling at the youth level going on through MSCR, and then also a program called Beat the Streets. Former Madison State champion from Madison West, Greg Schrader, is heading up that. And then we've also got our own youth program called the Lancer Youth Wrestling Club. So, and it's all contributing, Most of our kids over the years are like Joey and started as freshmen, but we're getting more and more kids that have come up through the youth ranks now too.
Well, Joey, we mentioned you've been wrestling 3 years now, started as a freshman. What's the reason you kind of went towards wrestling, or what did you find in that made you want to compete in that sport?
It was just a different sport. Never really thought about it before. I had a couple friends that were doing it and just decided to join it, and my first year I liked it. After my second year, that's when I really started to get into the sport, and that's when I started wrestling kind of year round, and that's when I really made gains and got better.
Yeah, and we can tell by your record you've gotten much better than probably when you started, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us here today. That is Gary Skiles and Joey Stupar of Madison LaFollette Wrestling. Thanks, gentlemen.
Thanks for having us.
We'll be right back with more of the sports news after this.